I am Sharon Waxman. I'm the editor-in-chief of TheWrap, and I'm your moderator today. And it is my great pleasure to welcome 3 Oscar-nominated, talented people from this movie. America Ferrera, nominated for Best Supporting Actress. And please welcome Billie Eilish and Finneas, both Oscar-nominated for What Was I Made For? Best Song at the Academy Awards. Welcome.
Hi, Barbies.
Thanks for coming, you guys. It's so interesting to visit a movie this far into the journey of its life, right? Like, it's been months and many hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm just going to remind you guys, this movie's made $1.4 billion at the global box office. It's been streamed. I did some math. My math says that at about $11 a ticket, 131 million people have seen this movie. There was an exit poll they did last summer that said that 22% of the people who went to see Barbie had not been to the movie theater since the pandemic started. It's so rare that there's something that you get to participate in that has such an impact on the world. And you never know that going in, and you don't really probably even recognize it as it's going through its phenomenal success. And then here you are kind of at the apotheosis of the recognition of the film's success. And so, just want to take a moment to appreciate what that means for you guys and what that means for the movie industry in general. So, America, thank you for being here. As I was just mentioning to you backstage, I first met you at the Sundance Film Festival, 2002?
22 years ago.
Yeah, okay, but we look great. Yeah. And
I was 5 years old, I think.
yeah, you were 5, and I was like 15. It was crazy. She was 7. No, honestly, she was 17. Real Women Have Curves debuted at that festival. And here was this, just give me 1 second to say, it was this film that showed us a part of Los Angeles that we'd never seen. She was this young Hispanic actress who was not straight out of central casting, either the way you looked or the way your shape. You had curves, and it was so refreshing. And it's been a thrill to follow your career since then and see all the things you've done.
Thank you.
Ugly Betty, Superstore, and now this. So this, not only when you get this part and you know that Margot is the center of the film, how is it that you think about the role and what purpose you bring to it in sort of grounding it in the real human being who's kind of at the heart of this? Excuse me.
Yeah, thank you for all the amazing things you said and kind of rattled off about the success of the film. I mean, I think that no one could have anticipated the way that it landed, but watching it come together, it was very much that the whole is somehow greater than the sum of its parts. And to see, from the very beginning, to have a visionary like Greta Gerwig writing it and directing it, wrote it with her partner Noah Baumbach, but and then the talent of Margot and Ryan and all the incredible cast that came together, but then to bring Mark Ronson in, who brought on all these phenomenal, it was just like the layers and layers and layers of talent and craft, from our DP, Rodrigo Prieto, to our wardrobe and production design. It was like everywhere you looked, it was just, it was just the A-team. And I think that, I had never shockingly ever had dreams of being in a Barbie movie. That was not where I saw my career going. And but knowing that it was Greta and knowing that it was Margot playing this character, I could see from page 1 the depth of it, that it was hilarious. And I mean, I couldn't tell how beautiful it was going to be, but that it was unique from the beginning. You're like, this is the weirdest thing. Like, what is this? Are they really going to let her make this movie? But knowing Greta as a filmmaker and knowing Margot as an actress, realizing like, oh, this is working on all the levels. It's funny and it's subversive, but it isn't afraid to be full of heart and to say something. And there was no fear in it. There was no fear in any part of it. It was like Greta was just there sort of encouraging everyone to bring all of their weirdness and their full selves and to turn every role and song and set piece into the version of what they would want to be doing. And so for me, when I met Gloria, I had a moment independent from the actress being asked to play this role, just as a woman in the world, as a mother. I have 2 young children, and just the realization that Gloria has in the movie when she goes, like, you came for me. Like, when I had that moment, it was, this movie is for us. Like, it's about us. We get to be a part of it. It gets to have a real, flawed human woman's, adult woman's perspective and experience be a part of it. And so it felt so generous towards us, but it also felt so generous towards so many people. Like, Ken's entire storyline didn't have to be there. This could have just been something like railing on how effed up patriarchy is, but Greta, and it wouldn't be wrong, but Greta had the generosity and all, to the audience, to all of us, to give Ken this journey that also showed the other side of it, that somehow Ryan Gosling did the way Marlon Brando might play Ken. I mean, it's amazing. And then to see Margot, dip into playing Barbie, a plastic doll with all the heart and all the depth. I can't even remember what your question was, but everything.
Who cares?
all of it to say, from the beginning, it was just this is so weird and crazy and fun and not afraid of anything. And what an amazing gift as an artist to be invited into something that isn't leading with fear or leading to copy or emulate something else, but to say, we're making something entirely new. And we might all fail. There were moments where you're we're out on a limb right now with this one, and it could not work, but it did work. And I think the lesson is you're not always gonna come out the other side with Barbie, but if you don't go out on that limb and try to make something that feels and looks like nothing else, you're sure as hell not gonna get to Barbie.
Great answer. Don't know the question. So, Billie and Finneas, I'm so excited I get to meet you because I've never gotten to meet you yet, and I've been a huge admirer of your work since kind of burst onto the scene with such a big impact. I think there's an interesting backstory to what your family connection might be to Barbie and Mattel. I wondered if you might start by sharing that.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Well, our father, who's sitting right there, raise your hand.
Oh, wow. Dad, stand up. Say hi, everybody. Wow. And Mom, too. Hi, Mom.
And my mom is sitting there, too. Our dad was a carpenter at Mattel when we were kids, and we never saw him, literally ever. But he worked
So Barbie's made out of wood? What am I not getting here?
He was a carpenter. He built sets.
Sets, yeah.
At Mattel, and he would leave at 4 a.m. and come home late at night, and sometimes he would I thought it was really cool that he worked there because he sometimes he would come home with scraps from Barbie sets that he would find in the garbage. And so in dumpsters, sometimes he would pull out Barbies that had been thrown away or pieces from sets. There was this one thing that he gave to me. Maybe he shouldn't have been taking stuff, but he was. But there was one thing.
I think it's okay now.
It was an apple, a little plastic apple that was pink, this bright pink apple. And I just thought it was really cool. And I have it still somewhere in my house. But
a tiny Barbie size?
No, an apple-sized apple.
Oh, apple-sized
but a fake plastic one. That was part of some set. Yeah, for years that was it. And he, one time found an unopened Barbie, holiday Barbie or something in the garbage or something, and I got that for Christmas. It was awesome. Yeah.
So Barbie had a certain mystique to you, even if Barbie's more my era or maybe even older when it was super cool, because there were other things that came in and kind of replaced it.
Nothing, honest to God, nothing has replaced Barbie. I really don't think it's ever been replaced. I think there's been new things. You know, I think like, I loved like Monster High dolls. That was my shit. But like, Barbie was always Barbie. It's kind of rare for things to be so adored and beloved and remain that way for generations and generations and generations. Because, I didn't know. I had no idea Barbie was like an old thing. I was like, oh my God, this is my favorite thing in the world. And I loved all my Barbies, and I treated them like gold. I loved Barbie so much. And then my mom would talk about Barbies and her Barbies when she was a kid. And I was like, wow, like this is a lifelong, I don't even know. It's really amazing the way that it has affected us all, I think.
So it came about that Greta reached out to you, or you heard about the project and said we'd be interested.
Yeah, they'd wrapped principal photography, and I, like everybody else, had kind of seen like TMZ photos of Margot and Ryan on rollerblades at the beach, and I'd been like, damn, okay. We're huge fans of Greta and Noah, and yeah, one of our team members, Paul, was having a meeting totally separate from us with Inan at Mattel. And Inan at this point was like, "Oh, Mark."
Inan Kreitz, who's the CEO
Yes,
of
correct.
Mattel, right? Yeah.
And Inan was exclaiming about how excited he was about Barbie, and he told our team member Paul about like, Mark is doing this soundtrack, and it's going to be amazing. And the people that work with us champion us and are great. And he was like, well, you don't have a Billie song. And he was like, could we get a Billie song? And he was like, I'll call him. So we got this call out of the blue of like, do you want to maybe talk to Mark about doing something for the Barbie movie? And I was like, yes, of course.
That's kind of crazy that it would
crazy.
come through the CEO of Mattel. It's not usually part of the
No, not
creative
usually.
team. I mean,
No, for sure. So
Yeah.
we got really lucky. And then we were put in touch with Mark, and then Mark put us in touch with Greta pretty quickly. And she was very adamant that we see the movie if we were going to write anything, which again, like all of this, like I talk about this a lot, but we feel like fans who snuck into the back of like the party. And so the idea that we were going to get to see some rough cut of the movie 6 months before we would otherwise get to see it was enough to us that we were like, that's sick. Even if they don't want us to make a song, that's awesome. It was the first 40 minutes assembled, and then several scenes, America's Amazing Monologue, the Now Feel scene with Ruth, I'm Just Ken. We got to see some really pivotal moments in the film.
So you said you mean the dance scene?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got to see these things to kind of take home with us and be inspired by, and we just loved it. We just loved the film. We were super moved by it, and we wrote the song the next day. Wow. Yeah.
Do you guys write together? Does one of you write the words? One of you write
It
the
is
music?
really, at this point, we've been working together since I was 13 and Finneas was 17. Those were our ages when we made a song called Ocean Eyes and put that out. And
amazing.
it's
13,
really
13.
13 and 17 is ridiculous. But it's changed a lot over the years, but I think at this point it's very 50-50. We are so when we talk about a song we've written, it's like hard to remember who wrote what because it's very equally we're equally contributing, I think, at this point, which is really, really fun. It's really amazing. I feel like, I write on my own too, and Finneas writes on his own, but when we write together, it's really, honestly, like nothing else, and I can't really recreate it. It's special, and I think that when we're inspired, like when we were, the day after we saw Barbie, we were just like filled with, I've said this a gazillion times, but like we hadn't been creative at all, and we were not coming up with anything, and we just were completely like stumped. We just had nothing, not about Barbie, like in general. We were trying to make this album, and we were like, we have no ideas, we're not good anymore, this and that, and saw Barbie, and 24 hours later, we had been working that day and not coming up with anything and not being creative, and I was like, dude, I'm going home. We should stop. And then just Finneas was like, well, let's just take a crack at this Barbie thing. And I remember being like, bro, what? You think after this whole months of not creating anything and this whole day of sitting here for 6 hours and coming up with absolute garbage, we're going to come up with an incredible Barbie song that's going to be like good enough for this movie? Like, absolutely not. And we wrote it in like under 2 hours. Yeah, kind of amazing to think about.
You saw the footage, and you just went back to work like your normal work. You had a session, and we were working on an album.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, you're like, well, let's try this. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Greta had said this thing when we were first speaking to her, where she said, what are you working on right now? And we said, we're supposed to be working on Billie's next album. And she said, oh, great. Well, then this can be the way that you procrastinate. And
Was
I
awesome.
think
God she said that.
we felt so daunted by how little progress we felt we were making on the album at the time that I was like, oh my God, like we don't need to procrastinate. We can't even get the album going. But she was completely right. Like it was such an astute. She said, she was like, that's what I love when she was like, when I'm working on a big project, I love a little distraction to work on. It was really smart.
It's really true, but because that was going to be one of my questions I was going to ask you guys, is that why you do movie scores? Because of course you wrote the song for James Bond, A Time to Die as well. Like, what is appealing to you about that, given that you have your own very strong creative voice that you put out there that is an expression of, you know, the inner you and just what you guys do together, which is so special. Yeah. Then if you collaborate on something like a film, like you've got all this other inputs and it's additive to the creative process for you to work on something that really kind of belongs to somebody else, because it's Greta Noah's vision in a way, right?
Well, you know, writing for something, especially film, TV, whatever it is, but having a prompt, having some sort of guideline, something to write about is my favorite game. Truly my favorite game. Like, it's like, I don't know, there's something about it. I think having like I really like having an assignment. I really like having like a challenge and I like having parameters. Rules, kind of. And honestly, it's hard for me to be vulnerable sometimes in a lot of ways, but in also writing music. I've said this before, but like I don't find it easy and or fun to write about my own feelings most of the time.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes some people, when they write songs, really like writing about how they specifically feel and their experience. And I have found that really difficult and challenging, and it's really hard for me, because I guess it's hard for me to understand how I'm feeling until later. And so, you know, something that Finneas and I have done for our entire lives of writing music is given ourselves something to write about, like a fake story, like here, what if we wrote a song from the perspective of somebody who's like a rock climber and they like need to whatever it is. Like you can just come up with anything and then, you know, write about it. And there's something about writing for somebody else that I love so much, and I love putting myself in other people's shoes. And
well, it might be easier in a way. It's like a little less scary.
Well, it's not vulnerable. It's not very vulnerable.
vulnerable.
Well, it's so interesting because you've also talked so much about how personal the song is.
Well, that's the other thing, is that when we were making this song, I wasn't thinking about myself. I was thinking about Barbie, and I was thinking about the movie, and I was thinking about, you know, like there's footage of us writing the song. And
me, you were thinking about me.
I was thinking about you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, duh. I mean, literally. I was thinking about your monologue, and that was replaying over and over in my head, and I was not thinking about myself at all. And there's footage of us writing that song, and the whole time we were like, well, you know, when like America says this, and then like Margot's doing this, and okay, so like if she, not about myself, not about me, not about my life. It's like Barbie, Ken, this, that. And then, you know, a couple days later, I'm listening to it, I'm playing it for a friend, and I'm like, who wrote this shit about my life? Because it wasn't me, but then it was. Know what I'm saying? So yeah, really weird. Because sometimes that happens. Your subconscious is there, you know. And anyway, blah blah.
Well, I think that's it. Like if it's good, it's honest, and if it's honest, then it's got to relate to something real. Mm-hmm. So, and what I love also about it, especially in contrast to the other song, is that it's literally the yin yang of the movie, right? Like one is this like fun, you know, funny, you know, energetic thing, and then your song is so delicate and straight to the heart. It feels like. Yeah. So, did you do like what were you thinking about? I guess you're thinking about when you wrote it. What were you thinking? Or are you aware of what you're thinking about? Because I know that it feels like it brings the heart of the movie out, the song itself.
When we saw Greta and we saw what she showed us of the movie, she kind of, she was like, you can make anything. It doesn't matter. It's anything you want to make. Like it's totally fine.
That's such a good impersonation of her. Greta, is that you?
But like she wouldn't give us an answer, right? She was so,
She was being so
humble.
generous.
She's and she's like, you don't have to make, if you don't even want to make anything, you don't even have to. It's like, just don't even worry. But like,
That really does sound like
if
Greta.
you could make something, like, and we were like, girl, shut the fuck up and tell us what you want us to make. Tell us what you want us to make, because we will make exactly what you want. Like, I wanted her to be happy, and that's all I wanted. I was like, girl, like, we're here for you. Don't be all, you guys can do whatever you want. Like, okay, sure. But like, tell us what you want, because we want to make what you want. And, we eventually got her to be like, okay. If I could have in an ideal world, if I could have anything specific, and you can do anything you want. But if I could have one thing, it would be Barbie's heart song. And I want her heart. Oh, it makes me like choked up almost, because it's like I just think about how I felt when I was watching that movie for the first time and feeling her, and feel her heart. You know her heart when you watch it. And we had replaying in our heads that scene where they're in the like white abyss, and it's her and Ruth, and she's crying, and she takes her hands and she just says feel. And originally when we saw it, it was only the shot of Margot crying. There was no montage and there was no song. And we knew we wanted to make something for that scene. And there was no world that it was going to be upbeat and happy. There was just not even a world that was going to happen. That didn't need, there wasn't, they had that. That was already there. That's also not what I do, y'all. That is not what I do. So, yeah, it was obvious what we were going to make, I think, immediately. Yeah.
Pretty great.
But you say that she wanted the heart song, and I heard Mark Ronson say this on another panel, which was that when they heard this song, they string What Was I Made For, the melody of it, throughout, and you'll see it starts popping up when Barbie starts having complicated feelings, and it's sort of like it is her heart song sort of pulling her towards where she's going, and they weaved their song back into the whole movie.
So cool.
I'm now Mark Ronson. You're welcome. Greta and Mark.
Oh, you're not you. Well, okay. Let's talk, America, about the speech that you give that is the heart of the movie, and that is now going to basically make you the symbol of feminism for the next 40 years. So I hope you're comfortable with that. So let's just back it up a little bit. What did you think when you read it, and how did you prepare to completely naturally, as if off the top of your head, kind of come out with this, I'll call it a cri de coeur, like a cry of the heart of like what it's like to be a woman today that's connected with everybody?
Yeah, I mean, it's so amazing. I love hearing musicians talk about their process, because it just feels like such an alien thing. But hearing you talk about it, it is so much a similar thing of you get a story and a character that you get to step into, and you get to see it through their very specifically written journey. But really, what it is it's like different portals into like your own journey, your own feelings, your own, my version of that. Like, I never played with Barbies growing up, ever. We couldn't afford them. I didn't really feel like there was nothing accessible to me about the Barbie world and Barbie land. And so it just like was never really that part of my life. But for me, what Barbie in this movie stands for, and this is what I think the true genius of Greta and Noah writing this script, is that they didn't just make something up and make you care about it. They took something that everybody already has a feeling about, right, whether you love it or hate it or have written it off or you think it has nothing to do with you. They pulled off this magician's trick of taking something that you think you knew how you felt about and then taking you on a journey where it's like, it's not even about Barbie, this is about us, right? And so not having feelings about Barbie my feeling of what was representative of Barbie is, what is that thing as a child that made you feel like anything was possible? That's what Barbie is to Gloria. Gloria's very specific experience with Barbie is, when I played with Barbies, everything and anything was possible. And now I'm a grown adult woman in the world, and she lied to me because everything is not possible. And I'm frustrated, and I'm hitting dead ends. And my daughter, who I've poured everything into me, is pulling away. And my husband is my husband. And all of the things. And so for her, it was, how do I get back to the feeling of anything is possible, which is also at the core of your song, right? It's how do we get back to that thing of like, oh yeah, life, and it's good, and it's fun, and it's passionate, and maybe everything's not possible, but we can try, you know? And for me as a child, that was performance. Like, that's where I was allowed to be everything. You know, my feelings weren't too big for anyone. I could be all the things. And so I did think that for me, it was trying to reconcile, like, who is this woman who is both very real and flawed and frustrated and stuck in her life, but somehow has held on to, has maintained the childlike wonder of, I can summon Barbie into the real world with my imagination, you know? And that was such a joy. And I think it says something that it felt weird to me to begin with, because I think in real life, I am that woman. I'm silly and fun and have an imagination and full of wonder. And I'm a serious businesswoman who a lot of people are afraid of. And we can be all of those things, but kind of the way we're used to seeing ourselves projected back to ourselves is not someone who gets to be all those things. You're in that box, or you're in this box, or you're the dorky best friend, or you're the girl next door, or you're the hot chick, or you're the one the guy wants or the one the guy doesn't want, right? Like, we're used to just seeing ourselves in boxes and not as the whole human beings that we are. And so for me, I get Gloria and Greta's names mixed up all the time.
That's interesting.
Yeah, Gloria's journey in this is like finding her way back for herself and for all of Barbie Land, finding her way back to a place where she gets to be all the things she is. And not surprisingly, like, I feel like that's been my personal journey too. And the journey of making the Barbie movie in a deeply personal way has been a journey of getting to that place for myself too. And where it's like, oh, I'm telling Gloria's story, but then somehow you're like, oh, it wasn't just Gloria's story, it was my story too. So yeah, I don't remember your question, but that's my answer. I talk in paragraphs.
I could leave.
Sorry.
I could just go.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. No, what I was asking let's see. I still want to know what it felt like to deliver the speech. Yeah. And of course, it's clear when you read this, I'm sure when you read the script, when you see the movie, that is what the movie is there for, is to get to that moment and express that point of view. Was it, did you have to do a lot of takes? Did you have to say it in front of the mirror a bunch? Like, how did you prepare? Because it has to come off feeling like right straight from your heart, like from your gut, actually. Yeah,
we shot that scene for 2 days. So
Wow.
I probably ended up saying that monologue top to bottom, like, I want to say around 50 times.
Wow.
Like, Ariana, who plays Sasha, my daughter, she had memorized it at the end, and she like said it back to me, and I sobbed, and she was really great in it. And we shot it for 2 days, but Greta and I had talked about it for months. Like, we talked about every time there was something in the culture, like this article or that story or this episode of TV or this op-ed, everything that had to do with the monologue, we would just share and relate to what's happening in the culture, but also to what we've experienced as individual women. And also, you know, I had 40 years experience of being a woman, so that helped. And then, you know, I think by the time we got to doing it, I had all these months to deeply weave each of those lines so personally with my own experiences and you know, which helps because then you don't have to act or overact. You get to just say the words and let the words kind of pull whatever thread it pulls. And because we did it for so long, that it was such a gift to have time with the words and to have time with letting each take me wherever it was going to. There were takes that ended in hysterical laughter, takes that ended in rage. I think there was literally a take where I turned into a dragon and I just screamed. And I'm glad I've never had to watch that take. And, it was just doing it and letting, and it was different and unique from every other day on set where Greta was very specific with what she wanted. She had a very, she's a dancer, and I think she's musical by nature, and like the way she heard the dialogue was so specific in her head, in a lot of ways very musical. And Ryan always says that she was like always tuning us, and that's right. She would close her eyes and have us run the lines, and then she'd tune us. She'd make us go faster or slower or slow it down so it was always very specific. And then when we got to this monologue, the day of, I was like, oh, how did you hear this? And it was the only time on set that she said, I don't know. I want you to find it. I want you to play and to find it. And that was scary, but also felt like so much faith that she had in me, and I had so much faith in her. And then we just laughed and cried for 2 days and did the monologue. And I was very tired at the end, but also it felt personally cathartic. And maybe this is too much information, but I feel like in my own personal life, like I had to live that monologue through my body. And so there are times where I'll go to like look at the mirror and be like, I haven't worked out in 2 days. And then I'll just hear Gloria be like, we already said the monologue. We don't get to go back and do that. And it's like she still lives in my head and is saying the monologue all the time. So in a way, it felt personally transformative.
Wow. So which take of the 50 did she use?
I have no idea. I never asked. I think that I don't know. You'll have to ask Greta.
How deep into the shoot was it?
It was at the end. That was the other thing, is like I'd been holding all this anticipation for months and months. Amazing. And I was just ready to go. I'm like, please let me just get this out. So it was like a relief when it was done.
Yeah. While you were discussing it, did the monologue like shift, evolve, change, or like?
It did, yeah. We added some stuff. We made things simplified, like the always be grateful line, but never forget that the system is rigged, so find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. That was something that came out of our conversations.
It's like a catechism now. You can just kind of.
I kind of can.
Yeah.
That you have to, love being a mom, but also don't talk about your kids all the damn time. Like that came out of a lot of our, like there were, we tweaked and played with it and personalized it and made it feel, it just kind of felt, by the time the words came out, it was just so deeply, I think, threaded throughout my personal experience.
I would take a couple questions if you guys are okay with that. Yeah.
Billie, my 65-year-old mother, has asked to please tell you that you were her #1 artist on Spotify, so good job reaching every generation. So I'd like to touch upon something, Finneas, that you mentioned, that America also ties into your monologue. I'm curious if, as creatives or as people, Finneas, you mentioned still feeling like a fan who snuck in the back, for example. Do you ever still feel imposter syndrome at times, and how do you work through that?
Did you memorize that? That was like totally perfect.
That was like
There's
a whole, like a whole
or anything.
You didn't you didn't
I wish I was as eloquent as you.
You just
amazing.
got right to it. Thank you for that question, and thank you to your mother, your grandma, your mom. Cute. That's very sweet. I don't have grandparents, so I always hope that people whatever. Yikes. Okay. You asked, do I feel imposter syndrome? Lol. Yeah. Most of my life is spent feeling that way. It's very weird in my life. It's very strange.
I even think, our involvement in this movie, like, again, we just feel like such fans, and we've now gotten to go to these amazing things like the Globes and the Critics' Choice, and like, Barbie or America or anyone will win or be nominated, and like, it's like I've described it as like not dissimilar to being a fan of like a sports team where you're like, we won. And like I did not kick the ball into the end zone. So again, it's like, but my hope is that everybody that loves Barbie feels that way. My hope is that everybody that loves anything feels like it's a we. But we do feel like we've gotten to join we're like honorary members of the Barbie entourage. Which
Yeah,
is
it's
very
funny,
cool.
like being at the tables at like award shows, and we're sitting with like America, Margot,
Greta, Mark.
Ryan,
Yeah.
Mark. It's crazy. I mean, it feels very surreal and very silly. Like, I'm like, who let me in here? I don't know. It's just like, life is so insane, and I think that being asked at all to be a part of this movie was so crazy, and then being a part of it is amazing, and the cultural impact that this movie had on us all is something that will truly go down in like the history books, and I'm so honored and lucky to be a part of that. I feel so grateful. And when the movie came out, and every video I saw online was like somebody's story of being a woman and being a person in the world, and it was to my song. I felt like one with the girls, and I felt like one with the people, and it felt really special. And I don't know, I hold that really close to my heart because it really meant a lot to me, and I feel endlessly grateful for that.
What about you? Do you feel imposter syndrome?
Well, I want to break this question down.
Yeah, you do.
Because
She's thought about it.
Because we're talking about two different things. I think what you guys are talking about, I think everybody on this movie felt, which was, I feel so lucky to be here. Like, I think I'm constantly like, I can't believe I'm sitting next to Billie.
Hey,
always.
that's crazy.
And I think that excitement and that wonder and that joy of like, wow, I get to be here and watch Rodrigo Prieto work. Like I get to watch Margot and Ryan and all of these incredible, and Greta. Like, I think I don't think we should ever lose that. I think, like you said, feeling, that's the joy of like, I got invited to the party and it's fun. And that's also what helps you, kind of up your game and then play your best because they're playing their best. And so I think that's one thing, and I think it's great and it's positive. I've started thinking of this thing that what do we really mean when we say imposter syndrome? And I would say the quick, I don't give quick answers. The quick answer to do I ever feel imposter syndrome is yes. But I've come to think of it very differently, because what imposter syndrome says to us is that you walk into a space and what you feel is, I don't belong here. Everybody else belongs here and I don't belong here. And I've come to think of the titling of it as imposter syndrome as like victim shaming, where I'm like, and now I'm giving myself like a disease that I have because, not only do I not belong here, but like I don't even feel like I belong here, so I'm doing this the wrong way. And you just shrink yourself. You get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I don't really have the replacement, so maybe one of you can think of what the replacement word is for imposter syndrome. But I think the difference of the way I look at it is like, oh, it's not my fault that I feel like I don't belong in this space. Everything for my whole life has told me I don't belong in this space. Wow. So it's not really imposter syndrome, it's appropriate reaction to what I've been told my whole life. And whatever syndrome or whatever that is, And because one makes me feel more shameful. One makes me feel like, shit, I don't know what I'm doing, and I feel really small around these geniuses, and no one knows it, and they're going to find out, and they're going to kick me out. Instead of all these smart people think I belong here, and I've worked really hard, and I am here, and I've done the work. Why do I still feel like I don't belong here? Because I believe what I've been told and taught my whole life, that I don't belong here. So I just think we have to, like, for our own selves, start thinking about it differently. Of like, I feel strange in this space because I am a stranger in this space. Because a lot of us are the first people like us to be in these spaces. And so, in a way, it's the most appropriate response you can have. We're just calling it the wrong thing. Wow.
Thank you so much, America, Billie Finneas. Congratulations again.